Before we actually begin today, I want to recognize the extraordinary coalition of folks behind me as well as here in attendance. Last January, I had the honor of being appointed as the president and the CEO of the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation, which you can see here in front of me, which is a small but mighty nonprofit that has decided to take this bold step and sue the parole board. I'd like to recognize the board of trustees from our nonprofit, the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation. Rick Richmond, who's our chair, is here. Many of you know McGregor Scott, who's former U.S. attorney. He's also on our board. Our latest addition to our board is Yolo County's retired DA now, Jeff Reisig. So thank you so much for being here, Jeff. And I give tremendous credit today to our legal director, Kent Scheidegger, who without him, this lawsuit would not be proceeding. He is the brains behind this lawsuit that we are bringing. I also want to recognize and introduce you all to the speakers today. After me, I will have our sheriff give you some remarks, followed by Greg Totten, who is the CEO of the California District Attorneys Association, followed as well as Ron Freitas, the DA of San Joaquin County, Angie Chavez, who is the aunt of 8-year-old Sandra Cantu, who was murdered several years ago, and Angie is the lead plaintiff in this lawsuit. Phyllis Moya is here. Her son was a Pittsburgh police sergeant who was killed in the line of duty. Morgan Geyer, who's the elected district attorney for Placer County. Sharon Kavanaugh, who is the grandmother of 6-week-old Alia, who was killed by her father. Kim Juarez is here speaking on behalf of Lacey Peterson's family, Sharon Rocha, as well. She's a dear friend of Lacey. Nina Salerno is here. She is the elected district attorney of Modoc County and will speak to you all on behalf of crime victims' rights organizations across California. And lastly, we will finalize this with a talking from Ralph Diaz, who's the former Secretary of Corrections, the head of the prison system, and now a victim rights advocate. I also want to recognize the many families, the victims' families, the survivors, the public safety leaders, and victims' rights organizations who are joining us today. Many of them, in fact, are named plaintiffs in our lawsuit. There is no doubt in my mind that your presence here sends a very powerful message that Californians are united in protecting the rights of victims, public safety, and the rule of law. Today, this morning, the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation filed a lawsuit against the California Board of Parole hearings. We are asking a court here in Sacramento to stop the implementation of regulations that they have adopted, not laws, regulations, that would create an entirely new process to allow the most dangerous and violent inmates out of our prison system, including individuals serving life without parole. It is an unprecedented power grab by an executive administrative agency. If anyone wonders why we are all here to sound the alarm, they need look at one name: David Funston. I know that name well because I prosecuted him when I was a much younger prosecutor here in Sacramento. David Funston is perhaps one of California's most notorious serial child predators. After a jury convicted him, a judge sentenced him to 3 life terms after he kidnapped and sexually assaulted several young children, including a child that was the age of 3. That little girl, who was 3, stands here today as a supporter as an adult. Mr. Funston's victims were forced to relive the nightmare when the parole board decided that it was a good idea to release David Funston, even though he was a diagnosed pedophile, even though he admitted that he's still sexually attracted to children. When that happened, Californians, and many beyond California borders, asked a very simple question: how could anyone think this is a good idea? The answer should concern everyone here in California and perhaps beyond, because now that same parole board has adopted regulations, not laws, that will allow this process where they will seek to have a system in place to let individuals out of prison prison, including those serving life without parole. We fundamentally disagree with this. At the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation, our mission is clear: to protect victims' rights, to uphold the rule of law, and to keep the public safe. We are, at the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation, what I call the legal firewall when it comes to those principles that are threatened. That's why we're here today. When we talk about these regulations, the question becomes, well, who's eligible? Who can get out under this process? Well, it's pretty shocking. Cop killers, baby killers, serial killers, mass murderers, torture killers, and perhaps most significant is those inmates serving life without parole. They are the very offenders for whom victims' families were promised finality. But this lawsuit is about more than these regulations. This lawsuit is about who gets to make California sentencing laws. As you all know, the legislature writes the laws, and on some occasions, the people of California also write the laws through ballot measures and initiatives. The parole board does not. These regulations attempt to do exactly that. Here's what should concern every Californian. If the parole board can create this new process without any election or any vote today, it can change it tomorrow. So while it may be that you got to serve 25 years today to be able to get out, even though it's LWOP, tomorrow it could be 20 or 15 or anything else. No vote of the legislature, no vote of the people. We just have simply unelected bureaucrats who have made a decision that they think this is a good idea to change the rules. For decades, families were promised that life without the possibility of parole meant exactly that. As I said, promises were made of finality, and those promises matter. That is why so many victims are here, along with public safety leaders. They have joined us today. So we are here to tell the parole board and elected officials and all Californians that we are drawing the line. Life without the possibility of parole should mean exactly that. And when unelected bureaucrats claim the power to rewrite those sentencing clause, every Californian should be concerned. Because if they can change those rules today, nothing stops them from changing them tomorrow. That's why we've asked the courts to intervene. That's why we filed this lawsuit. So I wish to thank you all for being here, and with that I will introduce our sheriff here, Jim Cooper.